Let's try creating some seamless models in this one. This would be something you might do for trim sheets or tile sets, things like that. Now, there's a lot of different strategies for this, but generally they're kind of similar. And we're just going to start with a plane. Okay. I'm going to keep this real basic here at first. The plane, we're going to Alt D it, press Alt D and X and hold Control, move it out like this. Alt D, X, move it out like that. You can grab these now and Alt D and hit Y and hold Control. And Alt D creates a link duplicate here in Blender. Okay, so you turn wireframes on if you want here. And what this is they're the same mesh repeated. So if I took one and inset it, hold Control, you see they all do the same thing. So this is good because if we're going to cut out something like a seamless tile, you can do that very easily here. But you do got to be a little bit particular on how you approach this. You don't want to move anything on these edges. You can only move them up and down or left and right. You don't want to move them, in this case, forward or backwards or whatever. So if we use a knife tool, we can start cutting in some various types of designs and shapes. And maybe we're going for like cliff walls, bricks, or whatever anything that you really want to create. And this is generally what you're going to end up doing for these types of projects anyways. You might model them outright, or you might do booleans, or there's all kinds of things that really could happen here, but it's going to be along these lines. You can even sculpt and then create displacement map. Well, you can also go to Substance Designer and do something like that, where you set up trim sheet or seamless tiles over there, and then just displace these types of designs. You don't necessarily always have to model them. Generally, I would say modeling it's probably more geared towards just low poly game art, perhaps, but there's a good odd chance that it could be more stylized in nature. So you're going to create, your setup here. We're going to use vertex snapping on for now. And we're just going to press G, and these should snap into place like this. Okay. And we can do this one at the bottom. See, like we don't want to move it like that, right? So press G and Y. Move that one over a little, maybe. Straighten it up a bit. Then you can take the top one and snap it to it and tweak this one now. You get like a nice look, more or less. And these edges here, all these squared up ones, that's not the pattern. Okay, that's just the edge where the seam would be. So keep that in mind when you're working on these. You can also use the move tool. So you don't have to axis constrain things. When you hit G and hold Shift Z, or hit G and Shift Z, you can axis constrain in two directions. But when you have the move tool, you just grab it and turn snapping off. But you grab that little square basically. So you can, spice these up a little bit more perhaps. That's the main idea of modeling seamlessly is you're trying to get things to match up with each other. In case of something like this, you're probably best off doing, there might be different ways to get a hold of everything here, but you can try selecting all the edges except for the boundary edges. So you can maybe, well, we can just shift select and control click through here maybe. See, it acts a little bit weird sometimes. Let's do select loops, boundary loop. Press A to select everything. Select the boundary loop and then hit Control I. You can do that. Now we can Control B. We can do a bevel. And we'll just leave it at one segment for now. We can deselect these faces here. So C for the cursor selector if you want, or shift click them. And now we can do something like an inset. Okay. And we want to hit B. So the boundary, you see how it meets up now? So we can do boundary on or off. With B, now we can hold Control while insetting. So I, B, Control, okay? This is what you're looking for, something like this for now. And so this is exactly what you'll want to be doing on a number of projects. Now, it doesn't always work out this way. There's other strategies and techniques as well, but this one works pretty well, I think. Like you can inset again if you needed to, like maybe you need some more depth, or you need depth on this one to be different than other ones. So you grab the right ones here, then you hold control and raise up that whole piece, you see? We have B on right now, so it's gonna do this number. It doesn't do the border. And let's try these ones here. We'll just push these ones up real quick. Whoop, that other side too. Just trying to give it a little bit of interest. That's all we're doing right now. Yeah. So that's just one strategy on how to do this. Now, of course, you can spend more time on the model and make it look a lot more interesting, but it's the main idea anyways to do this type of model. So what you do with these from here is up to you, but I'm going to duplicate one out. Actually, we can Alt D it still, so it'll stay linked. You can turn them into modular kit pieces, and that's what this whole video is really for. There's a guy working on a freelance project, and he was struggling with this idea of creating these types of pieces maybe. So you'd have to unwrap it accordingly, but that's not really that. So just like a face project for the most part. We're going to do an array modifier, and we can do any number that we need. Make sure you merge it. Turn the merge distance down to something low if you need to. Okay. And I'm going to do a bend here using the regular modifier in 4.5, but they updated this for 5 series. So bend is going to be a little bit different, but it's the simple deform modifier. Simple deform is kind of a pain to set up sometimes. We want to do, instead of twist, a bend, and it still does wrong. You have to create an empty with the modifier list add-on. It wasn't that hard. You would just create empty by hitting that button. Creates the empty. And normally I rotate these on X 90, and that usually will give me what I want. So we'll see if it works here. I might have to change it to a different setting here to get it to work, right? In this case, you can see it's actually not doing what I want. In a rare case like this, a lot of times I had to rotate it another 90 degrees on Y usually. But sometimes it might be Z. So now I should be able to get this to start working, hopefully. If not, I might have this wrong. I might have to just turn that to 0. Okay, so 90 on Y in this. It's usually the direction you want it to go. But yeah, so I want it to do, yeah, more like that. It's going to start bending around. So if we had a grid floor here, we're making some kind of modular piece. Do a little grid snapping real quick. Not quite right, but it's close. All right. And so we could just bend it up now, however far the mesh will handle, basically. And in a case like this mesh is okay. It does have some vertical edges to it, so but we probably don't want to go that far, maybe like 90 degrees. Okay. And we might want to bend it from out here too, not necessarily right where it was. So the idea is we want to get it back to another grid point, like a modular piece, right? So we'd influence this a little bit. Press G, Shift Z, use the move tool, whatever you want. But we're just going to try to modify it a tiny bit. Might just be on Y or X or something else that you have to move until you get it back exactly where it needs to go. And surprise, surprise, if we had did this and we were trying to create modular pieces, we can Alt D this one as well, and we can get rid of the simple deform, rotate it out. We'd want to make sure we got the pivot points in the right areas, but basically you can see what's going to happen now. Okay, so this modular piece, we can get very close by just modifying that empty there. You can see, you just press G once we have it selected. I can move until we get it very, very close. Um, the trick here is that it's not done yet, right? So we could use it temporarily, but as like the final step after you UV mapped it, textured it, all that fun stuff, is that you collapse that simple deform and you vertex snap these two together. And then it would be flawless as far as like the alignment of those edges. And they're so close right now, it's almost like you can almost auto merge them actually. They're very close. So you can create wall units in this manner and make it work out basically. So unwrapping UV editor, already unwrapped for the most part. If you want to try to redo it again, you could try U and project from view. It might be a little bit too small. This is where text tools can be quite useful. You might use canvas, center it up. Whoop, island, center it up, turn padding off, drop it. All right. That's re-unwrapped perhaps. If you check it with the checker map, the only downside of this strategy is it does pull the texture down into the middle. So you want to have some big tapers, the edges here. That way they capture texture a little bit better anyways. But if you were ever to add or texture paint this or whatever the case, you're pretty much golden now. So in our case, let's do, just hit Control T with Node Wrangler add-on when you have this selected. You can create a new texture real quick. We'll just call it diffuse for now. Okay. This one, we can get rid of the checker map. So normally you can do this in Substance Painter. You don't have to do it here, but I want to kind of go to texture paint real quick. Press X. We'll use something like that. Use soft or hard brushes. It's really up to us. Graphics tablet if you want. I just want to get this some color on it. I'm actually texture painting here, not just doing any old nothing, right? We're only working on the one in the middle, basically. And so this is where I think things can kind of go hayward. Let's go to layout. And over here, we'll go to texture paint. We have a full screen. We're not going to worry about the 2D image editor right now. The main thing is we're working on diffuse. And for the options here, we don't really have the options we would want. See, we got some bleed. I don't usually use this anyways, but it's the main idea. Like we can do symmetry on X and Y. It should work out fine-ish for this, but you could hand paint this now as well if we wanted to. Maybe use a soft brush. Going to pressure up or down and try getting something going at least. Yeah, so you see like we kind of like dead end over here on this side. So working across the symmetry might be a little bit of a problem. And for whatever reason, it looks like it's creating a butterfly. Not sure why. I know it does, like, it can do things like that, but yeah, it doesn't really paint seamlessly the way I would want it, right? Want this to continue over here. Watch this, ready? Control and apply scale. Apply. You can apply it to all of them as well. Gonna mess up, possibly gonna mess up the other thing. Probably do them all at the same time, by the way. But I want to take all of this. We can duplicate it out, maybe. Control J that and join it. That way we can make all of these instances again. of the center one. Control L, link object data, how you update an instance, yeah, or a link duplicate. But this one here, if we press AM, merge by distance, set that to a really low value, it all merge together. We should still be able to texture paint this, right? And instead of using like mirroring, all the other nonsense, it should mirror kind of automatically. Same as like you would do in Substance Painter, or if you're sculpting, you can do similar type things. There's different ways of doing that, but excuse me. Sculpting, you have to set up mapping. It's not the same. It's similar-esque, but it's not exactly the same. So if you had a material already put together from like Substance Designer, there's nothing to stop you from just going through and displacing something like this on a dense mesh. I mean, it depends on like what you're using your models for. But sometimes you still might even do this on a material that was already created, just to give it a little bit more oomph without doing like heavy tessellation and stuff that or displacement. So, always consider, the purposes of your models and how you're going to work them out. You can use textures, of course. Hand painting in here. Use photos and spice them up and all kinds of other fun stuff. But yeah, it's seamlessly painting now, right? Basically, it's good. That's what you're going for. Now, we could take our time on this. Definitely, we can definitely come up with like a lot better of a hand painted look here, but this is the main idea. Go through, you do this number. Just take your time now to texture it up. You can also paint inside of something like Krita, right? Do not have to do all of this in Blender. Krita does do seamless painting very well. But you can see we got that going rather quickly, right? Let's do a little bit in Krita. As we have a texture going, you can save this. We'll save it out as a PNG. 8-bit. Use desktop. Okay. Let's load up Krita. Now we'll open it. You can make this seamless right here. Example. All right. But before we do, go back to Blender. We have these UV seams or these like the UV wireframe here. So in the UV editor, you can go to export UV template, UV layout right there. Turn fill up or down as needed. I'm just going to leave it at max. 1024 should be fine. Call it the UV. You turn the fill up or down. If it's down, it'll be a wireframe. If it's up, it'll be filled, but you'll still see the wireframe. So it'll basically export this here. This is both good and bad. Sometimes what I like to do is just, well, a lot of times, is I'll do a filter adjust levels, and I'm just going to crank the white up, basically. So I'm going to press Control A, Control C, copy it over here, Control V. Should be lined up appropriately. And you can set that to something like multiply. Crank down the opacity. So now we'll always know where our wireframes are. Lock it. Create a new layer here. Use like a chalk brush. And so we can turn on seamless aspect. You see where this is going. So we don't have to do everything inside of Blender. That's all I'm saying. We come in here. We can spice it up a lot easier this way. Give it some actual texture. Well, with these tools. Use layers and things like that, which you don't have in Blender at all. Blender is actually really good for touching up seams with the clone stamp tool. I don't think it's really that great just to texture paint in it all the time, but you certainly can give it a shot, I guess, if you wanted. But a proper, photo editor or image editor would work out better for you. Darker brown, more blend modes. You can use layers. You can text potentially. Krita's kind of weak in the text department, but the thing that does exist here. And we could have definitely spent more time on the model itself as well. But this will turn out nicer, generally speaking. Right? All right, so this is we're just gonna keep working it for a bit. I want it grayer, not so maybe just really small too on these edges. You definitely add like green to it, some other stuff, and like the moss and grass or dirt or all kinds of other fun stuff we can do with these. But I'm gonna get a little like edge highlight going here. Do cracks and crevices as well. I mean, there's nothing that stops us at this point from doing all kinds of just different things. Want to do like a little crack or crevice in here. You certainly can. If this is diffuse work, you can fake the lighting quite a bit. Not PBR. You don't necessarily do it like just a base color. And you want to leave things kind of broken up too, where you're not doing everything in like one area. So you can do it lightly and then come back over and do it lightly again. This is how you develop textures basically, little by little, and break it up. But it'll match the model now at least. That cracks kind of. We'll leave it for now. Change your sizes up, break up your stroke, and paint it. Keep going. I was gonna just sample this and knock that back a little bit. What else can we do? Maybe some light, little blotchy areas. Let's do these kind of green for a second on a new layer. Okay, so I just created a new layer if you didn't see it. But we can create kind of these extreme setups here as well. So we can do something like soft light or overlay or something different. Overlay is going to be something like that. Soft light's half the effect, and then you can also turn the opacity up and down. Okay, so do that. Green to it. I don't want to get too involved here. Actually, let's not do that because it takes a little bit of time to do that, but at least not too much. I just set it to multiply. We're going to do this a little here or there, make a good texture. All you got to do. And like I was saying, I didn't want to do the green because it's usually you do like a dark pass and then a light pass or something like that, right? With multiply, we can't do that, but it'd be something like that. But you can do this more purposefully. So it looks a lot nicer. Different brush sizes and opacities, and I'm just going to crank that opacity down quite a bit, halfway. A little bit muted right now, not too high contrast. Turn the wireframes off. I can add a filter layer and do a levels adjustment last minute if I wanted to. I'm just going to click OK for now. Go back, right click it, properties. So I could see the levels themselves because for whatever reason, the preview doesn't work in the other. So I don't want to contrast this out too much, but I do want it a little bit brighter maybe. We could desaturate or do other little adjustments to this anyways. Use like some color curves, whatever the case, right? So that's hand painted texture for it. Now we just resave it and do it this one. We could do another one. Do another one for now. Go to Blender. All we got to do is go back to our shader. This one doesn't matter now. We can just load this one up. Go layout. Okay. Looks like a little dark here. Go to material preview. Yeah, there you go. Cool, right? So yeah, you can do this kind of stuff all day long, and it's not too hard. And painting textures, creating seamless models. It's kind of a good intro, at least, to get started with this. And there's other strategies. I mean, we can do individual stones and center align them on this on both sides. So that way we have instances on both sides with like mold stones. It could be multiple objects. They don't have to be one sheet like that. There's like lots of little cool tricks like that. So I might do some more on this if you want. I think it'll be pretty useful for some of you because this is how you start these kinds of things up. Okay. Now, of course, this is very repetitious. If we had better pattern, it wouldn't look as bad. But it's the start. I think we're on the right path here, and we actually have some depth to this too. So it looks really nice. Um, the only downside here, I think I kind of skipped it maybe, but this one you might want to try Control A, applying your scale. Okay, so this one should be unique now. You see, it doesn't always bend real good when you have ingons, right? So sometimes if you turn these off in edit mode, it's still just a tile. It's a good idea maybe if you have hard ops, you can hit Q and you can dice it. Okay. Dice should be a standard feature in Blender, but they didn't include it for whatever reason. Sometimes you need additional either horizontal or vertical edges. In our case, I think we'll dice only the vertical. So we hit Y, hit X, or Q, Y, and then X. But the vertical ones I think are probably going to be most important for it. Unfortunately, when we cut it up in this manner, we might have to go back and clean things up still, right? Because if things are just too close, it doesn't work out very well. Plus, you can still have shading errors, right? But a lot of times when it's set up in this manner, you can shade it smooth. You can weight the normals. It should actually shade okay. Like it shouldn't be too bad. But we might have some slight discrepancies here and there that we need to clean. See, like this edge here. Actually, let's turn these back on in edit mode. Oh, it doesn't update that one. Okay, end result here. That's the one. The move position's still out here. I wish they would make Blender do this stuff better, but whatever the case. So these ingons can hurt it sometimes. That's all I'm saying. If you have to dissolve things, you have to dissolve things. You get that shading to work better, right? Dissolve that. It's not the end of the world. You can still move things around and try to preserve with correct face attributes and keep connected usually. You still try to move things around a little bit, and it may not screw up your whole UV map by doing that. Yeah. But certain things you just don't need, like this over here. Like, that's probably not going to help you at all. If you took these and you just press X and you do collapse, it may preserve the UV, it may not. So be careful. But sometimes things like that work, right? I think it's okay. But if you're not feeling comfortable with any of those, just vertex. Turn on vertex snap. correct face attributes, you just press G and you can snap them around to where they need to go. Careful with the borders, of course, because the borders can still go crazy. But these can all just snap next to each other. Then at the end, you can hit AM, merge by distance. I wouldn't turn auto merge on necessarily because you might mess up and merge to the wrong things or something, or snap to the wrong things. So just press AM, merge by distance here. Plus, sometimes you want to slam things out as well. So, meaning like you run a loop cut into, or like an edge into another cut by GG, moving it back or something to balance it out. All kinds of other modeling tricks and anyway, so that's all I wanted to go over on this one because this is how I would approach doing walls that are more like this anyways. I think this works out much better. Some of these objects still, I like to turn these off personally. Some of these things here still go in. We can still tweak them. Like if that depth wasn't working out, wasn't quite pronounced enough or something. So we can still tweak them a little bit. You might mess the UVs up a little bit if you move it too far, but a little bit of stretching probably won't hurt too much. As long as it's not too apparent. I think this one here will push in. A little bit more dynamic looking, perhaps. You'd also try just moving an edge, maybe. You can get away with it. You don't want to create non-planar faces, generally speaking. Like, well, it's okay to do it, but it can really make the shading look bad sometimes. So you got to be careful. Like this edge running across through here, it's probably better to clean that up too. You don't really need all that necessarily. So that's like the GG twice time. This one can go right here. Can just dissolve that entirely. It doesn't need to exist. Snap that one to there. You can hold control instead of leaving that on to snap. Clean it up. Try different topo out if this doesn't work for you. You see how these corners come out? It's not doing quite what you want. Don't be afraid to just change it up, But ultimately, that is it, guys. That is the partially diffuse workflow and setting up fileable models and walls and all kinds of fun stuff, right? See you in the next one.